Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. We are going to see another tutorial on Jenkins in this video. So we have used Jenkins for a lot of our integrations, configurations, and we, s- we store a lot of data in Jenkins which are critical for us. So in this tutorial, we will see how we can take a backup of Jenkins easily and how you can restore the data which you have already backed up. We will also see how we can back up Jenkins uh, using manual backup and also using few plugins. We will go through the step-by-step process, how to install the plugins and how to configure it. Okay, so let's get started. So if you haven't subscribed to my channel, kindly subscribe, like the video, share and comment. So for this demo, I'm going to use a Docker which is installed on CentOS. If you run the Docker version, you can see which version of Docker is installed. So I'm going to run the Jenkins as a Docker container. So if you don't know how to set up Jenkins as a Docker container, don't worry, you can just follow this command. Otherwise, you can check my video tutorials to see how to set up Docker and also how to run Jenkins as a Docker container. So here we are going to use the port 8080 for Jenkins, and I'm also going to map a Docker volume to the location /var/Jenkins in the local host, which will be mapped to the Docker location _var/Jenkins_home. So this will be the location where we will be having all the data from Jenkins, like jobs. It will have your configurations, workspaces, the plugins. So most of all information will be under Jenkins home. So we are mapping that location to your host machine. So we can make the edits or we can take the backup of the files directly from /var/Jenkins from the host. So let's wait for the container to be created, and we will have to go through the process of setting up the Jenkins. Okay, great. So the container is created now. Now, if you run the docker ps command, you will be able to see the running container for Jenkins. Now, to inspect the container, we can use the command docker inspect and the container ID or the container name. So if you run docker inspect Jenkins, you can see we'll be able to get the complete information on the container. So if you go through it, you'll be able to see where we have the volumes mapped and what image we have used. Okay, and you'll be able to see all the information about the Jenkins container. So you can go through it and you will be able to find more information, which port we have used and what is the internal IP address of the Docker container. But we'll be using the host IP address because we have exposed port 8080 from container to the host. Okay, let's go to the folder /var/Jenkins, which we mapped as a mount volume from the host to the container. Now, if you see, we are able to see the config.xml, we are able to see the jobs, nodes, the secret folder, the plugins, logs. So the users, everything is listed here. So this is the main things which we need to take a backup. So one of the way you can take a backup is you can just copy this content locally from your host to a different location. Other option is you can take a snapshot of your virtual machine if it's a virtual machine or server. Now let's log into the Jenkins. So we need to have the initial admin password. So you can get it from var/Jenkins/secret slash initial admin password file. We have done this multiple times in our several tutorials, so I hope you will be knowing it. And let's create the admin account. So you can write down the username, password, and also give a full name and just give an email address. Okay, so we are done with the configuration and we can start the Jenkins instance. Okay, so we are on the Jenkins home page. Let's create some test jobs. Okay, I've not written anything in the job, but if you go back to your /var/Jenkins location, and if you go to the jobs folder, you will be able to see the first job listed here. What does that mean? So like when we create a job in the Jenkins portal, it gets stored here. Okay, now let's configure the plugins for the backup. So you go to manage Jenkins and manage plugins. Go to the available tab and search for backup. So it's processing. It may take some time to load. Okay, now if you see, we have a few backup plugins, but we'll be using the ThinBackup and also the periodic backup in this tutorial. If you see some of the backup is more useful for you, you can make use of that plugin as well. Now you can go through this documentation for ThinBackup, which is directly from the Jenkins documentation. So you can see how it works, and also for the periodic backup. So it gives the details on what kind of backup we can do and some screenshot how to configure it. Okay, let's install the ThinBackup and also the periodic backup. Just click on install without restart. Okay, great. So the installation is completed. Let's go back to manage Jenkins. And if you scroll down to the bottom, you'll be able to see two new categories. One is called periodic backup manager. Another one is ThinBackup manager. Now let's configure the backup manager. So you can click on the configure, and we have to give the details. So if you go to the location /var/Jenkins, so this will be our the basic folder where we have all the files which we need to take a backup. So this will be /var/Jenkins. That is the folder. But if you look from Jenkins container point of view, the same location is mapped for /var Jenkins/home Jenkins_home. So we have to give that location here, and you need to give some temp location for making some copy. And we are going to use a cron job, so you can go through the process how we can write the cron job. So I'm just giving 5 minutes time as a cron. We can also set the maximum backups in a location. What does that means? Like, you can when you run the backup, if you run 3-4 times as well, if you give the number as 2, it will take only 2 backups in that location. The previous backups will be deleted. So you can configure these settings as well, and you can also make the settings whether you want to configure the backup for only the config files or you want to take a full backup. So you can decide on which backup option you want to go with. And to store, we need to give a location we need to store, and we also need to select what kind of file we need to store. So I'm going to use as a TGZ file. If you want to have a zip file or something, you can select that as well. So I'm going to create a folder inside /var/Jenkins itself. Okay, so the basic uh, option for backup is like you need to back up to some other location, not into the same Jenkins folder. However, since we are using a container and we don't have any other volumes mapped, so if you give any other location from the host like root some backup folder, it will not work because currently for the container we have only /var/jenkins mapped as a volume. But you can do that, but you need to have a separate volume map. We will see this at the end of tutorial, like how to create new volumes, and we can use that as a backup for location. Okay, now let's try to do a backup. So let's wait, okay, because currently we don't see anything inside the backup folder inside the host machine. Okay, now we can see it has created a backup, full backup. Now if I go here, I can see tgz file, right? tar.gz file. Okay, let's try to untar it. So I'm going to untar it into the same location. Okay, I need to create a folder of files, then I will untar to it. Okay, so let's untar it to the folder files. Okay, we have untarred the full zip file. Now let's go and check what all contents are available inside it. Now if you see, we can see all the files. Since we have used the full backup, we can see all the configurations, all logs, plugins, jobs, everything is backed up. So that's the benefit of full backup. Okay, let me remove that folder because we don't need it. Okay. Now, if you see in Jenkins, we had only one job, first job, and we taken the backup. So let me try to create a second job. So now we have two jobs. Okay. Now, if we go back to the default location, we'll be able to see two jobs in Jenkins jobs as well. Okay. Now let's go back to the periodic backup manager and let me try to restore the previous backed up configuration. So I'll go to restore and select the full backup and click on restore. So let's wait. Okay, so the restoration is completed. Now if you see, we don't see the second job at all because we have restored the old configuration from periodic backup. So that's the benefit. So you just uh, restore or backup, and you can easily go back to the previous configuration. So you can use even the zip format. You can change the maximum backup. So let me try to change the maximum backup at 2 as 2, and I will try to run a few backups, see how it works. Okay, so it has created a new backup. So let's see. So we can see there is a backup at 969, mentioned as 969. Let's run once more. Okay, so this time you can see 969 and 675. So there are two backups. Okay. Now let's try to create one more. Now, if we see, again, we see only two, but the difference is the 969 is deleted. We have a new one as 460, 446, right? Okay, why we are able to see only two is because we have kept on the maximum backup as two. Okay, okay, let's go and check out the other plugin, which is ThinBackup. So here as well, we have a few options. So let me clear out or remove the the already backed up file. So I'm going to use the same backup folder. So again, if you go back to configure ThinBackup, we need to give a location where the backup has to be done. So I'm going to give /var/Jenkins home/backup. So when you say /Jenkins home/backup means it's going to map to the host volume where it's going to be /var Jenkins/backup. So again, we need to give a cron job. So let's just go through, how you can write the cron settings. So here also we have some configuration like maximum number of backups. So here we have more options, like you can select what kind of files to be backed up. So if you want, you can go through this. You can check which options you need. Okay, you can read through this documentation for each option. Okay, let's try to run a backup. Okay, now we can see we have a folder called full. So that means this time it has backed up the full Jenkins configuration. So since we have used only some settings, it has not completely backed up. We see only like jobs, users. We don't see some of the things like plugins or secret file. So you need to make the settings accordingly. Okay, again, let's create a second job. Okay. So one difference if you would have seen is like here the backup is a folder, not as a zip or a tar file, right? So let's go back to ThinBackup and try to restore it again. So here you can see the drop down that how many backups are available. You select the backup, just click on restore. Okay, so if you see again when I refresh the Jenkins, we don't see the second job. So the old configurations are overwritten when we restored it. So it's that simple, like you can make some backup and you can restore it. So let's see now how we can run another Docker container, and we will map some other location in your host. Or I would say like you should make use of some share, like a share location where you don't have to worry about even the host machine is down, the data will be lost. So you should map some of the shared location as the volume. You can use some NFS share or file share. You can map that to the volume. So whenever the backup is done, it will store in that file share, not on the local host. Okay, so I'm going to map a new volume, which is temp from the local host and also from the Jenkins container. So Jenkins home is going to be same. Okay, /var/Jenkins. You can also use Docker standard volume as well if you want. You can just give some name like Jenkins_config and map it to /var/Jenkins. Okay, great. So we have the container running, and this time I'm using port 8081. So we have two Jenkins instance running. So that's the beauty of Docker. So you can have multiple versions of same application running. Now, if you go back to the configuration for the plugins, here I will give the backup location as /temp, because that's where we mapped in the Docker volume. Okay. Okay, it's a typo problem. Okay, so I have just changed the slash. And the same thing can do it for a ThinBackup as well. You can change the backup directory from Jenkins home to /temp. So what does it does is like, whenever you run the backup, it will be storing into a different location in the host. So as I said, prefer the ways to use a file share or a network share. Okay. Okay. So to summarize, we have spoke about how we can take a backup of Jenkins home manually and also using plugins like backup or periodic backup. We have seen the step-by-step process to configure the plugin and take a backup and also restore as necessary. So I hope this tutorial is informative for you. Thank you for watching. Kindly subscribe to my channel, like the video, share and comment.